sailing through the reef. Named for the stripes running along their flanks, larger tiger sharks were 20 feet long and weighed 2,000 pounds. Graceful, yet voracious, as they ate everything in sight, each with 4 dozen notched, curved teeth that could slice through prey. The walkers now had to rappel down lines into the lifeboats, resigned to leaving behind treasured possessions, as well as poor lost Jessie. Elizabeth gripped the line and braced herself. Along with her family and shipmates, she was entering a new phase. The walkers and their crew stood at the cusp of a life-altering ordeal that would come to be seen as a true-life Robinson Crusoe, with more than a touch of a real Swiss Family Robinson. With good reason, a Honolulu newspaper would come to call the events a shipwreck and existence on a desert island as thrilling as is to be found in the annals of the sea. Elizabeth's role was singular not because she was the one woman there, but because she was seen as a kind of mother to all, the person looked to for moral and spiritual strength, which was no doubt an unfair burden that would test her. Vital questions accompanied them off the schooner. How would each of them transform in crisis? And how far would the walkers have to go to protect their family? As Elizabeth descended, a crew member gave the signal for her to let go of the line and drop into the boat. But the signal came a second or two prematurely before the small craft was stable, which almost sent her into the shark-laden water. She had just barely managed to touch down into the lifeboat before she was joined by the rest of her family. Then she heard a faint sound from the ship that made her heart leap. Barking. Chapter 1. The Voyage Begins. Fall 1887. 6 months earlier, Elizabeth Walker, 43, was living in Hong Kong with no reason to suspect her life would be forever changed as she prepared to go to sea again with Frederick. Her frequent voyages, often to locales many people never heard of, much less imagined visiting, were prefigured by her childhood. Liverpool, where she was raised and where her father taught music, was a bustling shipping and trading port among the busiest in Europe. The forests of the globe are represented as in a grand parliament of masts, Herman Melville wrote of Liverpool's harbor in his novel Redburn, drawing on his own time there. With Elizabeth's parents dead by the time she was a young adult, she and 2 of her brothers, J.L. and Richard, embraced degrees of wanderlust, taking voyages around the world. Elizabeth had married Frederick Walker, 48, when they were in their early 20s. Originally from Dublin, Frederick was tall and slender with a bushy mustache and a dry sense of humor. He relished spending time with Elizabeth, with whom he enjoyed a tender camaraderie. But as an officer on ships, he was stern and no-nonsense. When he reflected that it was my invariable custom to get up at night, go on deck, perhaps light a pipe, and feel the invigorating influence of the cool night air, he was describing himself not as a wizened old mariner, as his language conjures, but as a man in his 30s. His long, spindly legs could appear awkward, even clumsy, as he climbed between decks. To casual observers, he could seem ill-tempered and stringent, and he was the first to admit he demanded apple pie order. One former apprentice praised him as good a sailor as ever trod a deck. Frederick also looked for enterprising ways to build upon his expertise, including applying for a British patent for a mechanism for hydraulic power. Between his voyages as captain and his business ideas, opportunities had led the couple to live in Yokohama, Japan, and now Hong Kong. Hong Kong, a British colony for 45 years after becoming a focal point for disputes between China and Great Britain over the sale of opium, was a cosmopolitan mix of residents and visitors in pursuit of international commerce, not unlike the Liverpool of Elizabeth's childhood. Making preparations for a passage while in Hong Kong would take the Walkers through what one travel writer described as the granite quays fringing the lake-like harbor, the tall merchant offices and cavernous warehouses beyond, the solidly constructed buildings, climbing tier over tier far up the steep hillside. Elizabeth was not the only woman of the era making long ocean passages with her family. A whaling captain's wife earlier in the 19th century recalled an emotional decision made when her husband sailed shortly after the birth of their child. The separation seemed worse than before, and I then came to the determination that if you ever...